Hey guys, Devious Hostial here. Going to be talking today a little bit about Wildstar. Sorry for the long break between videos. I've been trying to get good, so to speak, so that way I can actually bring you guys a quality video that actually makes sense and actually is correct information as I've been able to find it. I am currently playing a Spellslinger healer, so this is a healing guide. I'm going to first talk about 5-man healing, and then I'm going to talk about raid healing. First off, we're going to start off with amps, because amps for myself are the same regardless if I'm raid healing or if I'm 5-man healing. Alright, so we're going to start off in the hybrid assault support tree, which we have critical hit, 3 ranks. Critical is by far better than critical severity. Once you hit a cap of roughly 25, you may be able to switch over and do some critical severity, but honestly, you're probably not going to be that high. That being said, I also have the power surge, 8.6% of maximum support power, which is quite nice actually. So having that can be very, very beneficial. And also with this build, you should almost always be spell surged. Alrighty, that being said, we go over into the support tree. We have the support power increase. Alright, all 3 ranks. You should not need the focus recovery nor the focus cost reduction. And then in our tier 2, we have burst power, which is landing a crit, has a, will regenerate, I believe it's 6 spell power. I'll bring this over. Yep, 6 spell power. Can only occur every 6 seconds. Having this allows you to pretty much always have spell surge up. And then if it's not up, it allows you to kind of get it back to where you're able to use it extraordinarily effectively. Clarity is my second choice for our tier 2 runes, or I'm sorry, tier 2 amps, because having the ability to have it slightly lowered, which slightly lowered 20% can actually mean quite a lot of focus save. And this actually procs pretty frequently. I'm thoroughly impressed. And then for our tier 3, we have Desperation. This is not necessarily because you have bad focus regen. It may be, and that would be a good reason to have it. I have this mostly for raid healing. It's procced a few times in bosses, like on SSM, things like that. But this is mostly for raid healing. If a healer gets RNG, like on X89, someone drops a bomb on them, or just dumb things can happen in raids. People can make mistakes, so you end up having to 1 heal or 2 heal a fight. Then this might be very useful for you, because you don't want to ever use Gather Focus, because you're wasting a tier 8. Then we're going to go over to Healing Torrent, which this should be a no-brainer. If you don't have this as one of your heals on your bar, you are wrong. And then we have Healing Aura. Healing Aura, while tooltip reads like it's a small amount of healing, it's a free heal. This has actually been as anywhere between 5 to 15% of my overall healing in some of my raid parses. Alright, and then we go into utility, and we have cooldown reduction. Only place I've ever seen to get it. Don't see any runes that can help you get it, and I don't see any gear that has it on, so you were going to want to take this. Alright, and then we have Evasive Maneuvers as my tier 2. This has actually saved my life a few times, rolling out of my red into somebody else's red. That 7% damage reduction has actually left me with, 10% HP, and I'm able to burst myself back up. And granted, that is a fault of my own, but it can save your life. Alright, and then we're going to go over into Reorient. I take Reorient just because of the endurance recovery. Very helpful when having to move around in both 5-man dungeons and in raiding environments. And then we have Void Pact. Void Pact is a DPS buff for everybody in your party and raid. As long as you hit them with it, it's very, very, very efficient. And once you get comfortable enough healing and comfortable enough moving around, having Void Pact helps quite a bit. Not only with maneuverability, but with also getting bosses down. Alright, so we're going to go over to our abilities. Our support abilities are, in no particular order, Runic Healing. I have this up to tier 6. I would tier 7 it. I'm just kind of, I need 1 more point. Once I get that extra point, I'll have this tier 7. It's for the additional healing you get. I will pretty much only use this when stationary and never spell surged. The only time I will spell surge this is if there's nothing else I can use to help the individual out, and he's going to die regardless. There are certain fights where having this tier 4 at a minimum is actually really nice, because it reduces the magic damage that they're taking. And that 16% while stationary can be huge. And then we're going to go down to Healing Salve. I have this up to tier 4. Having it be able to happen every 1 second is very, very nice. I always spell surge this to make this double the amount of healing going out every second that they take damage. Very, very helpful in 5-mans. Questionable in 20-mans. Alright, and then I have Healing Torrent. I have this at base rank. There is no true reason to tier 7 this or tier 8 this unless this is going to be your go-to healing. That's not currently my style because depending on your tank, you can miss heals, and missing heals can mean death. It is very good for burst healing. I almost always spell surge this. If I will almost always trinket it as well if I'm using my support power trinket. If not, I will always spell surge it though. Just if you spell surge this, you can get, so far the highest crit I've done so far is 39k with Healing Torrent on a single target. Alright, and then you have Void Spring. Void Spring is a very, very cost efficient heal over time. At base rank, when you spell surge this, it does 562 per tick. That's 12 seconds of 562. That's over K every 2 seconds. So you combo Void Spring with Healing Salve and then top people off with Sustain at tier 4. Very, very focus efficient healing. Alright, and with Sustain, I have this tier 4 because it makes it a smart heal. The heals prioritize allies with low health. That is huge. It is very, very big. Not only that, it also increases the amount of healing done when you're at charge 2. Now, little tip, you can always keep this spell surged if you only use it up to the charge 1, because it actually won't use any spell surge. It will just increase your support power because of our amps. So it means the healing going out is going to be slightly higher. It will also proc Healing Aura, which in a 5-man setting can be very effective because it's going to be healing everybody in the party. Alright, and now we're going to go into our utility. Now, I run 2 interrupts on gate for 5-mans, so that way I can be part of the interrupt rotation, more moment opportunity abilities, and it also decreases the damage going out. Also allows you to just gate and give yourself some time to catch up on healing with courtesy stuns. If you're having some issues with a specific trash pull, or you pull an extra pack of trash than you wanted. And then I also have Arcane Shock. This for obvious reasons. Need that if you need to bump down 3 interrupt armor. And then you have Affinity. Affinity I use because in a 5-man setting, sometimes somebody's going to mess up. If somebody messes up, this allows you to place Affinity on them and then continue healing as you normally would, but the heals are going to be slightly more effective on them, so it allows you to not take your focus off the tank, because the tank is going to be the one taking most of the damage. But if one of the DPS gets hit, or yourself, or even if the tank is taking a fair amount of damage that they shouldn't be taking, you can put Affinity on them. That increased 10% healing allows you to not have to scramble to try and burst them up with this current healing setup. Alright, and now we're going to go ahead and switch over to what I have for my raid healing. And I'm going to go ahead and bring out my max loadout. I use max loadout. As you can see, I have different setups for raid healing. I'm going to talk about my primary one that I've been using, and that's AoE healing with Runic healing, Astral Infusion, and Healing Torrent. Alright, so like I said, amps are the same. When we'll go into our support, it's almost the exact same setup that I had with raid healing. I'm sorry, with 5-man healing. Except for I trade out Healing Salve for Astral Infusion. And I tier 4 Void Spring. With a tier 8 Sustain. And then we have Runic Healing. Now I use this setup for fights that I will have to be watching over a tank. This is generally good for trash pulls. When you have 3 tanks, we run with 3 healers. I know some guilds run with 4. When we have 3 healers, I will take the 3rd off tank. Generally, I try and heal the Stalker, just because they have the ability that if I oopsie, they can stay alive for a little bit longer, because I also have to still worry about the raid. Now, worrying about the raid, I only use Sustain for the raid, possibly an Astral Infusion, but I do like to save my Astral Infusion for the tank. And Void Spring I place under the tank. I will then pick up the 1 or 2 individuals with Runic Healing that need it in the raid. So, pretty self-explanatory healing here. This allows your tank to take a little bit less damage because it has the tier 4 buff. Astral Infusion with the 5-second reduced cooldown allows you to use it more frequently and can be very useful if the raid is taking a fair amount of damage. Void Spring, I will generally try and keep this under the tank, but if the raid is taking a fair amount of damage, I'll put Void Spring out. I will Spell Surge it to make sure that they're receiving additional healing from it. And it can be really effective with just 1 or 2 sustains thrown on top of it. Alright, and then we have our utility. I use Gate for my mobility. I do not use Void Slip. I do not like using Void Slip as a healer. Using Void Slip as a healer can sometimes put you into bad situations, like trying to heal someone and you Void Slip and you come back out and they're dead. I don't like Void Slip for being a healer. I know it's a great maneuvering ability, it's our only CC break, but I do not like using Void Slip for healing. Alright, and then I have Void Pact, obvious reasons, DPS increase. Cast this on cooldown. I have 1 or 2 other Spellslingers that are DPS that are running a Void Pact build, and we will have Void Pact up pretty much 24/7. Alright, and then I have Affinity, same reason as using Affinity in 5-man settings. You want to use it with the lowest person, a tank, things like that. I will generally throw this on whichever tank is taking the most damage, be it that they're under geared or it's class specific. So that's pretty much my trash layout, and certain boss fights I will use this. It's going to be very specific, and you kind of have to get a feel for your own abilities. And then I have 1 other healing setup that I've been using, and this is one that's really good for AoE healing, assuming you have really good single target healers, like having an Esper healer, and whereas we run with 2 medics and a Spellslinger. Alright, like I said, amps are the same. The biggest difference with this one, and actually I believe the only difference with this one, is I take tier 6 Runic Healing and go for tier 6 Vitality Burst. Now, the only reason why I have tier 6 Vitality Burst is A, it's spammable. However, it is not as spammable necessarily as Runic Healing, but allows you to get the Bastion of 4% increased healing. If there's a lot of damage going out and you need the extra healing, Spell Surge this, get it all the way up to charge 3, get that 8% outgoing healing, and then start blowing your load on sustain. It is great, it's effective. You can do 2 sustains with it on charge 1, do Void Spring and a Healing Torrent, all within 1 5-second charge of this. And it's 8% increased outgoing healing, and if you have Affinity on someone, that means that that person is going to be receiving 18% increased. It's very, very, very effective. And now that we've talked about kind of what abilities you should be looking at using, we're going to go ahead and go over to the actual setup of the class. Now, our primary stats need to be Moxie and Insight. Insight prioritized over Moxie, obviously, for Spellslingers. As you can see, I have higher Finesse. I have had very, 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 very bad luck with some of my drops, both in raid and out of raid, being for Esper healers, which their stuff is an Insight and Finesse. So I'm getting more support power, or assault power, than I want to be. That being said, I do have 1492. I'm aiming for 1600 Insight. So I'm getting pretty darn close to my goal. So almost to that last support node right there. I have unspell surged 2,384 support power. Was spell surged 2588. When I am buffed with a food buff and a insight boost, I have spell surge 2800 insight. Or I'm sorry, 2800 support power. And it can take my Spell Surge Healing Torrent from 8411 all the way up to as high as 10k base tooltip. So that's pretty good amount of healing there. And then we're going to go ahead and talk about weapon. I use a CW4. They do cost an extraordinary amount on the Pergo server. But the biggest thing is that special, Unleash Anger. Unleash Anger is a phenomenal thing to have on your weapons, because it will stack with your set bonus, which I use Focus Regen and Team Player. Crit chance, 50% chance to restore 12 focus. So having this with this is huge for my focus sustainment. Alright, I have Warden Aegis. It's a decent shield. It increases my insight by 29, and it had 4 rune slots, 4 rune slots, so that helps quite a bit. Shield's a little bit low, sadly. I have these wonderful shoulders off the first mini-boss in Genetic Archives. Did focus recovery rate because it's an air slot, so that was my focus regen set. Focus recovery rate of 20, and then the 16 Moxie, because my Moxie is low. I have a decent chest piece. It could be better itemized, and it could have better rune slots. I put HP in here because if I didn't put HP in a couple of Earth slots I had, I'd be at 25k HP, which is way too low for raids. Alright, and then I have some decent gloves. I have Rage on these gloves, which is really nice. I generally almost always have this buff going on. Alright, I picked up these last night in raid. These are off Kurlak the Defiler, which we downed last night. And again, focus recovery rate and 18 insight. Really good boost for me in terms of insight and grit and moxie. So these are actually a pretty good pickup. I know you can technically probably get some better-ish stats with a crafted piece. However, you can't get as many stats with a crafted piece. You can't get the moxie at 52 and the grit and insight that high with a crafted piece. Alright, and then we also have these. I picked these up because my boots were a little bit crappy on my Spellslinger, so I grabbed these from the Elder Gem vendor. The Elder Gem vendor hooked me up with these. Pretty decent. Got some decent rune slots. Was able to maintain my focus regen 8 out of 12. Alright, Spirit Focuser. Also something I picked up out of the vendor, the Elder Gem vendor. 16 focus recovery rate, 13 more insight. Pretty decent upgrade for me when I got it. Now I use this. I know a lot of people don't like this because it's lower than what you can have. However, this does have the 19 insight on it, and then I was able to put another 10, so I get 29 insight from this item and 13 critical hit rating because my crit hit was a little bit low. Alright, and then I have this. This is off the vendor in Grimvault. This is off the rep vendor in Grimvault. It is probably the best in slot implant that you can grab for a Spellslinger healer. Alright, so you can kind of see what my stats are. My crit's a little bit low right now, which I'm tracking. I'm trying to bump that up. My focus recovery rate is quite decent. Don't have any focus issues anymore, honestly. And aside from that, just look at your runes. Your runes, the best rune is rune set that you want to go for first is 8 out of 12 focus regen. It is in life, air, and water slots. So you need at least 8 of those slots, and you can get the focus regen 8 out of 12. Very effective. I would do 12 out of 12, but I haven't really needed it. Alright, and then we have Team Player. Team Player is just kind of what I use to fill up the last of my slots with the 4 out of 12 because it increases by a base 16 support power, and I get a chance to heal for a little bit of extra healing. It's not a whole lot, but I also gain all of the stats from placing those in the slots, which for me was crit hit. So I have 4 extra crit hits in my runes and gain extra 16 support power. Pretty efficient and good for any of your extra open slots that you need to fill out. Alright, well, I hope this video has been helpful and informative. If you have any questions, please leave comments below. I will try and keep an eye on them, and I'll try and get us out some videos with a healing perspective on X89 and Kurlak the next time we do it on Wednesday. And then hopefully I'll be able to get you guys some of the Phage bosses as well. Everybody have a good day, and go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel.